have picks today from our show. Well, our guest handicappers. We got a lot of games to cover today. We'll take a look at that. The game two between Dodgers and Rays, and a lot of college football and NFL. And of course, we'll get into some European soccer coverage, as well as we got some afternoon action tomorrow in the Europa League. But let's take a look at who will be on our show today. And we've got Joe Duffy who will lead things off for us. And then we have Rod Zawacki as well. Chris Ruffalo will co-host with me today, and Al Ninos. Okay, no Dodgers shirt today again, so maybe that's how it's going to work here in this Rays series. He must be a happy man today. So good luck to your boys in blue. I think a lot of people are against them today. I have a feeling looking at the line there, Al.
Yeah, I got it early, unfortunately. Whoop, there you go. But did drop a few. So the Dodgers opened about minus 150, I think, and about minus 130 now. I haven't checked too recently. But yeah, it did. Some money did come in on the Rays because I guess Snell's starting, so that's usually a name that gets some action, especially out here in Tampa. I know a lot of people like to back him. But again, it's a pretty tough lineup he's going up against today, so it should be an interesting matchup.
Should be an interesting matchup here. Of course, we'll bring in my co-host Chris as we'll take a look at the game from yesterday. Chris, the Dodgers up 1-0. They got those bats going with Dodger. Mookie Betts was someone we were kind of worried about. Someone in the chat room alerted us to the fact that Betts had seen Tampa pitching, and of course the Dodgers take game one.
Yeah, you had to figure it's only a matter of time before, we started to see some runs get put up against that Tampa Bay pitching staff. And, Tyler Glasnow, we kind of mocked him for getting those minus 200 prices in the regular season when he wasn't the prototypical ace-type pitcher. And, game one was kind of the let's show you why we probably shouldn't give him those prices every once in a while. Because, against the bigger teams, he slayed the Yankees a couple times, but game where Tampa Bay, let's face it, Tampa Bay needed him. He kind of got blown up a little bit. So,
Yep, I got a little blown up there by the Dodgers bats there. As we'll take a look at that game a little later here. And of course, news today: Stan Van Gundy named head coach of the Pelicans. Looking at his line here, some 8 playoff appearances. Had success at Orlando, not so much in Detroit, but interesting team there because now. Looking at Big Zion, and of course, this was a running team, and we'll see how Van Gundy adjusts to this league.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at it's also a team that gave up 117 points per game last year, 52 points in the paint. I mean, that's not going to cut it in many leagues, even in the new and improved NBA, where we see 120 points on the regular. But I mean, you look at Van Gundy; he's also going to bring sort of a winning acumen to this young New Orleans team. His coach was still 3 conference finals appearances, 1 Eastern Conference championship with Orlando in 08 and 09 when they just fell short. And I mean, you look at that 3 compared to how many that the Pelicans / Hornets have in their franchise history, 0. So, it's definitely I think it's a step up from what unfortunately Alvin Gentry did. He's a solid coach as well. But I just think Stan Van Gundy is going to bring sort of a defensive pressure, defensive mentality that we've yet to see from the Pelicans. It's going to probably serve them well going forward.
Yeah, it looks that way. And of course, news here with Antonio Brown as we approach week 8, the suspension lifted. Of course, where does the AB land? Vocal wide receiver. We've got to take a look at his attitude. He comes to a team, how he'll impact the culture of the squad. But looks like Seattle Seahawks seem to be the leading contender, at least that's what people are talking about.
I mean, I can tell you as a Patriots fan what having Antonio Brown on your roster is like. You think there's a lot of promise going into it, and then next thing you know, he plays 1 game for the team, 4 catches, 56 yards, and then you never see him. You never see him again. And it just goes to show you. I mean, you think that maybe a coach like Bill Belichick, who, and this is not me being a homer, it's me being realistic. He's taken more problem cases than I would care to admit in the NFL. And more often than not, he's made lemonades with whatever lemons he's got at his disposal. Pete Carroll is probably a close second to a coach that can do that for, I don't want to say a lost cause, but a troubled talent. And even I don't think that the Seattle Seahawks would want to get their hands dirty with Antonio Brown here. I mean, if you get the Antonio Brown of old, where he's putting up 1,000 yards a season and 100 catches a year, and he's not really causing any hubbub about anything, and he's just going to come in there, do his job, and go home, collect a paycheck, and go. Okay, because you could add him to a DK Metcalf and a Tyler Lockett. That would make one of the toughest offenses in the NFL. Forget about just the NFC. But again, it's the personality that's going to come with the player. Can they handle it? We're going to see.
Yeah, definitely going to see that here, guys, here on the drive-thru. A lot of picks coming up here on the show as we take at the top of the hour. So we'll go ahead and get the coverage started. Welcome, Joe Duffy. You'll find him over at Pig Dogs Premium. Joe, how are you doing today? And, of course, this NFL, as we're into this, as we move here into the new week of action, we're seeing a lot of teams at the top of the spread ledger and a lot of teams at the bottom. And it should be interesting to see how that goes moving forward. Of course, things should even out, you would think. But some of these bottom teams, like the Jets, and there's other teams out there that don't even have a spread cover.
Yeah, but, like I always like to say, and I might as well say it early, the NFL is the number one regression to the mean sport. So the truth is, for the most part, betting on the really bad teams is a good play. Betting against the really good teams is also a very smart play. But, yeah, the Jets, they're a total disaster. I was never a Sam Darnold fan. That's not any secret, but it's not like they're any better without him. If anything, I did think that with Joe Flacco, they might have a little bit more value. But it's clear that Joe Flacco, his career is done. And, Adam Gase, I think 20 years from now, when people talk about the worst coaches of all time, he's going to go down there. I know that, the New York coaches generally get a higher profile. Rich Kotite's usually mentioned in there, Ray Hanley, et cetera. So maybe it doesn't help that you're coaching in New York, but I don't really get that at all. And, we can see how well Tannehill's done since he's gotten, out of Adam Gase. Gase basically, I think, just built his reputation as a quarterback whisperer because Jay Cutler finally had an adequate year under him, and I think that's about it. But yeah, the Jets, though, they are. I'm going to study each game by game, of course, but the Jets, quite frankly, are the type of team that in the NFL, sometimes you got to hold your nose and bet on them because they're going to have good value because nobody wants to bet on them.
Chris, you're seeing some of these bottom dwellers here. And of course, teams at the top, we're going to start seeing, we're seeing some teams that are covering week to week, teams not covering week to week. And at some point, that's going to regress and the lines are just going to get too inflated. And we're going to see that regression or improvement from the bottom.
Yeah, and I'm just glad Joe Duffy said that maybe you have to bet on the Jets once in a while when Brian Bittler wasn't here because God knows we don't need to hear that from Brian again every single time he's on the show. But absolutely, I mean, like Joe said, there is regression to the mean, I think, and the NFL is one of those sports, and it just gets to a point where the points become too much, and even if you have an 0, let's say the Jets get to 0-12, 0-13, these guys are still professionals. These guys still have pride. They still go to collect a paycheck. There's no such thing as tanking for Trevor or a suck for luck or whatever, as much as everybody wants to portray it like that. These are still professionals. They still have a job to do, whether they like it or not. And, I just think it's going to get to the point, like we said, that it's going to be just a case of too many points. And you're going to start to see some regression from either the teams that should be covering those numbers or the teams that haven't been covering those numbers that are going to start to.
Absolutely. And of course, Joe, go ahead. Follow up.
No, I was going to say, no, that is very true because there's two different things when you talk about teams, quote unquote, tanking. Sometimes the management will, like Miami did last year. There's no question that the management said we're going to rebuild, but that doesn't mean the players and the coaches are going to tank. And then we saw Miami where they were quite competitive. And, of course, the 76ers kind of invented that tankapalooza where obviously they traded away a bunch of their players. But, of course, the players were still fighting on the court. So even when the management upstairs, if they start trading away players and they're kind of tanking, it doesn't mean that they're a team to bet against because, of course, their value is going to drop. And then the players are professionals and they're out there fighting. So, yeah, there's two different types of tanking, which sometimes it does come at the top, but it does not mean that the players and the coaches are going to be tanking. And that's very important from a handicapping standpoint.
All right, then. Okay, so Joe, now we're starting to see. I know you're a veteran of the NFL. Now we're starting to see some of these rematch games. Like we got the Bengals Browns, and we'll start seeing a lot of that now. Divisional rematches, and usually, what's the parameters here as you handicap these games if we have these divisional rematches?
Yeah, a lot of people, look, we talk about how people will often make too much judgment of what happened the week before, and usually people will make too much adjustment about what happened in the previous game. It's a general rule of thumb, and I've definitely done the revenge angle. I've researched it. There's nothing that really screams out all that much, but as a general rule of thumb, don't outsmart yourself just because one team was dominated in the first matchup. That's what adjustments are about, and that's why these guys are at this high level, because the coaches and the players do have an ability to make adjustments. But no, definitely over the years, I've tried to find a fantastic angle when it comes to revenge or momentum, and there hasn't been anything that's really come out and bit me. And if anybody knows of any exceptions, please let me know. I'll research it.
All right, this is Joe Duffy here on the drive-through. You'll find him over at Pig Dogs Premium. All right, Joe, you're taking a look here to college football matchup here. ACC action, early start, Florida State at Louisville. Louisville down to a 5-point favorite. Total sits about 61 points here. And, of course, Florida State showing a little more improvement offensively. Louisville's been a bit of a disappointment. How do you see this one?
Yeah, it was a good sign. I heard that dog barking in the background, and hopefully that's a good omen for me, because I am going to go with the underdog here. I talk about, the fact that I borrowed that turbocharged version, or they borrowed the short road underdog that you hear about on the gambling radio network, and I call it my turbocharged version, where I've kind of added some parameters, and it's 824, 698, and 44. Of course, that would favor Florida State. Also, college football, different than the NFL. Not a lot of things I say in the NFL don't apply in college football. College football is much more of a momentum sport. Home teams off of a bad offensive game or a go against of 262, 169, and 14. Remember, Louisville scored only 7 points to Notre Dame. And, the old, probably not too many of you guys are old enough to remember the one-hit wonder, all right, we're coming home. We're going to get right back where we started from. Well, Louisville is returning home after 3 straight road games. This year's weird. That's not super uncommon in college football, but you're probably going to see it a little bit more this year than you would in previous years. But that's not a good thing, where a lot of people might say, all right, they got beat up on the road, but they're returning home. Home teams that are coming off of 3 straight road losses are a go against of 132, 90, and 2. Now, I still use some contrarian information. I don't like the fact that Florida State is a trendy dog. The public is liking Florida State. Last time I checked, 69% of the bets were on Florida State, and I've explained before where when it comes to contrarian stuff, I look at the number of bets, not so much the money, because if you're going to fade the public, the Joey Bag of Donuts who's betting $10 a game is just as important, and maybe even more important when it comes to contrarian information, than the heavy hitter who's betting 1,000 or 2,000 a game. So I definitely look at percentage of bets rather than the percentage of money. Florida State, look, their offensive line is showing certainly some progress. They are definitely playing much better under Jordan Travis, and maybe that's one of the things. I think that usually when you have a mobile quarterback, he makes the offensive line look better rather than vice versa. I know he was banged up, but it does look like he is going to play. And the Cardinals this year, they're finally coming off a pretty good defensive effort, but they have been consistently inconsistent. They've had a terrible defensive effort followed by a pretty good one. Well, the fact that they're actually off a pretty good defensive effort tells me, because they've done it already this year where they've alternated giving up 40-plus points with a decent one. I think they're going to come up short. That's just the way they've been doing all year. Their defense is questionable, and a questionable defense coming off a good defensive effort, I actually like to fade that. I think they're going to come up with a thud. So Florida State W marks the square.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Joe Duffy, with the Florida State Seminoles. Seen they've got experience on offense. I'm with you there. Chris, how do you see this one? Of course, Louisville played that 12-7 game against Notre Dame, but they're tackling this Florida State team.
Well, I mean, it's like Joe said, they're consistently inconsistent. I mean, when the offense shows up for Louisville, the defense doesn't, and vice versa. When the defense shows up, they only put up 7 points against Notre Dame. Now, granted, holding Notre Dame to 12 points is pretty good considering how well did the Irish run the ball. But again, this is still a frustrating Cardinal team to watch. And as for Florida State, they got the win against North Carolina, but they were up 31-7, I believe, and they let the Tar Heels come right back into that game. I see two clubs struggling with defense. I'm leaning towards the over in this spot, but I think you can definitely make a case for either side. For me, the over is the stronger play, but this is just a hard game to call.
Okay, Chris looking at the over. All right, Joe. Any closing thoughts here on this game?
Well, we talk about public teams, and there is such thing as public teams. But Florida State's almost gotten to be the opposite. They're such a high-profile team, but we know how horrible they've been. So I think they're actually a public team that everybody sees how bad they are, that all of a sudden there's some value. Everybody all of a sudden wants to bet against them. And I do think that they're probably, the highest profile disaster the past few years. All of a sudden they become a big public team to bet against. So we're getting, I think, a teeny bit of value because of perception here.
All right, that's Joe Duffy. You'll find him over at Pig Dogs Premium. We're a quarter past the hour, Joe. We look over at Pig Dogs Premium. What do you have going on?
I do have the baseball winner for tonight. And in fact, I was literally, you can see even in the background of the computer programs I use, pretty sure, fresh off my NFL. I promised you things are going to turn around, and it did. We swept the NFL last Sunday, including the NFL Game of the Year on Detroit. Wasn't even close. All but certain. Looks like I'm going to have my college football total of the year this weekend. I'm about 95% certain of that. It's going to be another big weekend. Things are finally back in the right direction. So a big, big, big weekend in store for Joe Duffy's Picks at Pick Dogs.
That's right. Check out Joe Duffy at Pig Dogs. Great work there from Joe. Why not pick up one of those long-term packages, the 3-day, 7-day, or 30-day pass, and get on board with Joe Duffy. Of course, we're into NFL. We got college football. The card's getting bigger now with the Big Ten and Mountain West. In a couple of weeks, we'll see the Pac-12 in action, of course, the MAC. And, of course, Joe, it'll be interesting times there as we have teams that have about 6 games in, and we got first-time teams debuting. It'll be a lot of work in the coming weeks.
No, there's no question. Some of my systems have to do with early season perception, and some of them have to do with the date. In fact, some of my better total systems are better as each week goes on. So I guess I'm going to get the best of both worlds. Not that I ever want to experience a year like this again, mind you, but there is kind of that, unique confluence where I'm going to be using some of the early season advantages in the Pac-10, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, and some of the mid to later season systems in some of the other conferences. It's a crazy, crazy year. So let's use it to our advantage. Like I said, I hope to be around for another 35 years and never experience anything like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Time to dust off those preview magazines we were looking at in August again, I guess. All right, Joe. As always, great
I was going to say, and I think we may have alluded to this. I really think, look, an opinion I respect. I've already heard him say he likes Ohio State this weekend in no small part because these teams have to come up with these big statement wins. I think statement wins in the conferences that are starting now are bigger than style points ever were. So that's definitely something to strongly consider. Look, if you win the SEC, you're going to make it to the Final Four. The Big Ten, we don't know. I mean, we're in uncharted waters. So Ohio State might have to go out and win every game by 20, 30 points.
And, of course, Boise State sitting back and seeing struggles in the SEC, seeing struggles in the Big 12. And, of course, the Pac-12 will find a way to screw themselves. They always do. So, yeah. Boise State, they might be a little charged up here as they face Utah State.
Yeah, and I really wish that college football kind of took a page out of the other sports and said, look, we're not necessarily going to expand the playoffs permanently, but they probably could have strongly considered expanding it this year, but I guess they're not going to. But yeah, that's crazy. Whether or not a power, that's going to be quite interesting if you have a non-power 5 team that's got 8 wins, and then a Big Ten team that's got 1 loss as a champion. It's probably going to be as crazy of a selection process as it will be as crazy a selection process as we've seen in the short history of the college football playoffs.
No doubt about that. All right, Joe, have a great night tonight, and we'll talk to you end of the week on Friday.
We shall, gentlemen. We will talk to you.
All right, everybody. Joe Duffy here on the drive-through. Chris, always great to have Joe Duffy, and boy, always like to pick his brain. And you can always welcome in, get your questions ready for Joe, because I got some news to break here. I've been testing some of this software, the social media software, to make sure we get your comments on screen, and it's working. So we will have it going here in a couple of days, guys. So good news here. So we can even feed in your questions for the handicappers when we have them on our segment. So that will be coming up in the next couple of days. We'll have that feature here. And it'll be fast, too. I can really get those comments up and down really quickly. So that was one of the things I wanted to make sure we got done. All right, guys, we'll continue here on the drive-thru. I'm going to look at this Iowa and Purdue game, Big Ten action here. And this game really caught my attention, Chris, because we're seeing Iowa road favorites of 3. Total sits here at 53.5. And Purdue, a bit of a disappointment last year, only winning four games. But that Kirk Ferentz team and his defense, they're strong, and they're really high on this quarterback, Spencer Petras, coming in. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I think the theme for last year, at least for Big Ten for me was in college basketball, and then from stepping back a little bit from college football is home dominance. Because like I said before, the Big Ten is one of those conferences that just the home field just plays so much into the result and into the experience, into the game. It just factors in so heavily. And even with the lack of fans in the stands, I still think that Purdue's a strong team. They bring back a lot of experience. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about Spencer Petras. I need to kind of see maybe him get a game under his belt. There's no doubt that it's a solid Kirk Ferentz defense year after year, but I'm still leaning towards the home dog here, especially getting the hook on the field goal as well. I just like the way Purdue plays defense. I think they're going to take a step forward this year, and I think Purdue's going to be a team to watch out for in the Big Ten. Excuse me.
Yeah, the Big Ten. It's Purdue really a solid team. Of course, one note you may look at here, and looking at Iowa as a road favorite, they have covered 6 of 8 in that role. So we'll see how that rolls here against this Purdue team, a team with a high expectation. Of course, a first year starter here for the Iowa side, and going on the road that's always a tough battle. All right, continue here on the drive-through, guys. We'll take you up to the top of the hour. A lot more picks coming from college football. We're also going to take a look at that Rays and Dodgers game number 2. But let's now welcome into the show buddy Rod Zawacki. You'll hear him in the morning show here with Mitch and company. And he's going to take a look at a college football game for Saturday. Let me get the computer ready. Here we go. Rod, how are things going? I hear, you're getting me cold out here. We're chilling up here. I'm sitting here at 80 degrees in SoCal. And are we hitting freezing mark out there?
Well, I guess if my low tonight will be 7 Fahrenheit. So it's going to be 7 overnight. I've got snow on the ground here already. Snowing most of the day today. We've got a good 5-10 centimeters on the ground already. So winter's here in Alberta, Canada.
Alberta, that's right. I'm hearing, of course, the weather in the Midwest, a lot of snow in the Rockies and whatnot. So, guys, you're definitely going to have to keep your eyes out here. We're already in the fall. And one thing I've noticed here, Rod, when we see fall, we always got to worry about wind in the Midwest. And sometimes when you see those big moves of the totals and going under, then you got to really look at the weather.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the game we talked about yesterday. Same thing. That could be smack dab in the middle of some really ugly weather there in Michigan off the lakes.
Yeah, no question. All right, Rod, you're going to be taking a look at this Houston and Navy game. These teams have played each other. And I remember a bowl game where Navy just clobbered them. But we got Houston here, 2-touchdown favorite, 14 total sits here at 54.5. Houston coming off a debut win in their opener, and of course Navy kind of an up and down team. Looks like replacing the first year quarterback. So how do you see this one?
For me in this game here, Houston's played 2 games this year so far. They won their first one with a nice win over Tulane. The next one they had a nice lead, and BYU came back late and just ran over them. So for me in this game here, we got Navy, who they definitely have. They haven't found their solid starting quarterback. They've tried 5 different starting quarterbacks in that position, but they got 2 elite running backs in the back who basically you just need a quarterback on Navy to hand the ball off, and these guys will take off and run with it. Jamal Carruthers, who led the midshipmen last year with 188 yards and 5 touchdowns. As they whooped, Navy beat Houston last year 76-31. So the big thing for me in this game, I think 14 is way too many points. On paper, you look and you see that Houston has defended the run pretty well, but there's a good chance that Houston's going to be missing 3 linebackers for this game. Zamar Kervin could be out. Malik Robinson could be out. Terrence Edston could be out. That's 3 linebackers who have been big about stopping the run for Houston. Those guys are out. I think Navy runs the ball on Houston, controls the clock, giving Houston their Houston offense as little possessions as possible, making Navy keep this game close. I don't know. They got a shot to win this outright again, but definitely take the points. Take Navy plus 14.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I was kind of leaning on the over in that game because when you look at Houston, Navy, they put up average over 500 yards of offense the past 2 years on that Houston defense. And Chris, how do you see this interesting battle between Houston and Navy?
Well, that's one of the games I had circled as a potential for a money line play because it's like we said, Houston has trouble defending the option, and they gave up 500 yards in the last two games on average. This is a Navy team. Yes, they got blown out by BYU. They got blown out by Air Force, but they also they rallied against Tulane. And Houston, from what we've seen, hasn't had much defense. Yeah, the offense can get firing, but you got to be able to give them the possessions to get going. It's like Rod said. I think Navy's going to try to control the clock. They're gonna step up on defense. And I think if Houston's missing those linebackers in the middle, that's a huge loss, especially when you're considering a lot of these option runs are going to be going right up the gut. So this could be, like I said, a potential money line play for me. But I'm definitely with them on Navy plus 14.
All right, Navy plus 14 as well, says Chris Ruffalo. Rod, any concern here with this Navy's showing in some of their games this year? They had some pretty bad performance, I know, against the Air Force in their opener.
And that's Navy. Basically, this team that comes out and they have three goals in mind, right? You want to beat Army, you want to beat Air Force, and you want to win that cup there, right? So for me in this game, I think Navy started 5 games, right? This is only be Houston's 3rd game, so Navy's getting things down. I watched Houston last game make some pretty dumb penalties. I don't see Navy doing that. They're disciplined. The penalties won't be a problem for them.
All right, Rod Zawacki saying go ahead and take the Navy plus the 14 in this one. All right, if we're seeing that Miami Dolphins captain, of course, Miami's in the news here. Looked good against that Jet team, shutting them out. But your thoughts about the quarterback move?
It's like Chris said yesterday. I think you should have given him more time in the Jets game. You should give him a whole second half. Like the game was way in hand. Give him a whole second half. Don't just give him one drive. But that's a tough spot you're going to throw him into. You're throwing him right into the Wolves, but we'll see how he does, right?
Yeah. Of course. When you
right
bring
in
that
against
up,
the Rams, here you go.
I know. I just keep thinking of Greg Williams' defense. You got to worry about some of the shenanigans that might happen there with the Jets. I see Chris shaking his head.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know who you feel worse for. Tua Tagovailoa having to go up against a Greg Williams defense with Aaron Donald in there, or I don't know if you kind of feel bad for Ryan Fitzpatrick too. I mean, he comes out there and he says, I really felt comfortable. I felt that this was my team. I felt comfortable leading the team. If you feel bad from an emotional standpoint, but again, at the end of the day, it's a business, and I think that unfortunately you got to put differences aside, and you got to do what's best for the team. If that means going forward with your young franchise quarterback of the future, that's what you got to do. And unfortunately, it's just nature of the beast.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for
Got to take the training wheels off.
Yeah,
got to take them training wheels off, but let them fly and see what happens.
I mean, I don't feel bad for Fitzpatrick. He had 14 years in league to prove himself. He put himself in that position over the course of that time period, and he knew what he was getting into. What happened in free agency? Anybody want him? No, he just went back to Miami, so he knew what was going to happen. Right? It was no
That's
surprise.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Rod. As we reach the bottom of the hour, why don't you let everybody know what you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium?
For me, I still have a winning side in tonight's baseball game. Game 2 of the World Series. We hammered game 1, so be sure to go over there and grab it. I had the winning side and total in game 1. So, and we gave out that free team total at the end of yesterday's show.
Right.
Here.
That's right. Good work there from Rod. You always got to check at the end of the show because we get that bird cage up there, and he'll throw in a play or a prop, and always
usually it's a prop bet. Usually a prop bet in the corner there at the end of the show. I'll throw out for you guys.
Nice. We're looking forward for that. All right, Rod. As always, great having you on your show. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Great to be here. Hey, have a good night.
All right, everybody. Rod Zawacki here on the drive-through here. As guys, we hit the bottom of the hour. Still a lot more to cover. We're going to get that baseball coverage here and pick, and then we'll also get some more football. But let's go ahead and get to that Dodgers and Rays game 2, Chris. This one will start at 8 Eastern time. It's Snell against Gonzalez. LA down to about $1.30 in some places. Total sits around 8. We know Gonzalez had his issues in the postseason. Really looked great last year. I wish he was on the postseason roster last year. He was off it. It might have hurt them, but this year he's on it. Pitched well during the regular season. But Chris, he's had some issues here with his control. About a 20% walk rate. He's been hurt by the home run. Snell, he's been a solid ace, and people like to back him. How do you see this one?
Yeah, the thing about Tony Gonsolin is that as good as he was in the regular season, Tony, like you mentioned, you look at his last 3 starts. That's 11 earned runs spanning 12.1 innings. That's an ERA up around 7 or 8 if my math is right, and that's your restarting pitcher. But you know what? I expect him to get a quick hook here. I think it's going to be 1-2 innings max, and has been good. But at the same time, part of me wonders if he's fully 100% there. I think we bested. And you look at the other 20%, I think the other 20% is just his mind just not wanting to be there and not, being the one guy that didn't want to play. All right, I guess I'll go 2. He doesn't want to be there, but you're dragging him along. He's
in relief in between of those. Big 12 action, TCU and Oklahoma. We'll take a look at the current line in this one. There is a 7 in some places. This one's come down from an opener of 64, so keep an eye on the weather in that one. We do know Oklahoma's defense has been poor, especially in that second half of game. Those big leads, and then they have to hold on for dear life at the end of these games. And again, it's the defense giving them struggles.
Well, I mean, you look at Oklahoma, and this is kind of why I looked at this game in particular, because I've been searching for up and down, and I'm having a problem putting offensive team, but that defense has been just a sieve. I mean, there's not much more you can say about that. I mean, yes, they beat Texas, but they gave up 45 points in the loss. 37 to Iowa State, 38 to Kansas State. These are teams that for all intents and purposes, you'd think that Oklahoma would have their number just based on what we've seen from years past. But the games are tight, and Spencer Rattler, as much as he was a highly touted quarterback coming into the system, he's still a freshman, and it hasn't panned out. Maybe the off week gives Oklahoma a chance to reset and realize that this is still a Sooners team that has not missed out on the Big 12 title since Lincoln Riley took charge, and maybe it's a chance for them to sort of hit the reset button, bounce back, but against a well-coached Gary Patterson TCU team. I had Kansas State against TCU, and that one came in, but I think TCU bounces back at home. I'm leaning towards taking the points with TCU and what I think could be a field goal game as well, and I'm possibly looking at even TCU outright on the money line.
All right, Chris Ruffalo says go ahead and take TCU on the money line. You're that confident on that team, huh?
You know what? I like TCU with the value of the points because, like I said, I think it's a field goal game, but I think that you could also get I think you could also take TCU on the money line with the 6.5, and if they eke out a late win or they kick a late field goal, or even if this one goes to overtime, which I think this one definitely has a chance to go to overtime. TCU's not a solid thing to. Easy for me to say. They're a very good play.
Yep, I'm with you there. Sooners allowing over 415 yards a game, 300 in the passing against the Big 12, and they've been hurt with penalties, turnovers. I'm with you there on TCU plus the 6.5 points. All right, we passed the bottom of the hour, Chris. What do you have going on over at Pick Dogs Premium?
So, go off the board today. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, we had the 3-pack go off the board today for the Afternoon Champions League today, but I'm going to have the winner of the Game 2 tonight, the World Series, over at the website. I'm going to put it up there for $25 as low as I can go. And you know what? Let's put some cash in the pockets. Heading over hump day. Let's head towards the weekend on a winning note.
That's right. Head over on a winning note. Pick up Chris Ruffalo's packs over at Pig Dogs Premium. We this 3-day, 7-day, and 30-day all sports pass. That's the way to go right now, guys. Get on board. We got a lot of football right now coming up this week. We've got Big Ten. We've got the Mountain West in, a couple weeks the Pac-12 in, and the MAC. So we'll have action throughout the week. And of course, we're not too far away from college basketball, as we're about a month away from it. Boy, October's flew by, Chris.
It wasn't even here. I tell you, you look and it's just like I look at all the sheets of the calendar on the phone. Like, where did this year go? And I mean, it seems like just yesterday I was just in Vegas in January, and then all of a sudden I blink and it's October 21st, and I'm like, and you got Christmas 2 months away. It's crazy, isn't it? It's what this world has been in 2020, but
absolutely. All right, this is the drive-through, guys. Does to me as well. All right, we're looking here at more action here on the drive-through. More picks coming up. Let's take a look at this Packers Texans as we shift our attention to the NFL. Green Bay road favorite to 3.5. Total sits here at 57.5. Of course, back-to-back road games here for the Packers after getting up early 10-0 on that on Tampa Bay, but only to let that lead get away from them. And of course, they get blown out at the end of that contest. So the Houston and Green Bay. How do you see this one, Chris?
Oh boy, I have a feeling I do not want to be in that locker room with Aaron Rodgers after a 38-10 beatdown when you were up 10-0 early. You know what? The line feels a little bit funny though, does it not? I mean, you look at this Green Bay team and how well they've played to start the year and how well they've been playing for the majority of it, and you get a Houston team that's just fresh off of their first win under Romeo Crennel, yes, but this is still a team that's had defensive struggles to start the year, and I mean, I don't know. The line feels funny to me. I'm still looking at it. My initial leans toward the Packers just because they've been playing so well this season. But I think depending on where the line shifts closer to game time, it could end up switching sides. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at that side too, and I mean a little reluctantly, we're not wanting to play that road favorite, especially in back-to-back games. I don't have an issue with Cornell's decision last year. Remember, Pete Carroll tried that against New England about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Tried to turn a 7-point lead into 9 and caught Belichick by surprise. It didn't work, so the lead stayed at 7, but the defense held and didn't hurt him. But Cornell tried the same move here, and it didn't work for him. I didn't have a problem with it.
No, because I mean, in reality, because I believe you said they were up 7, they tried to go for 2 and go up to 9. If you make it, yes, you go up 9. If worst case scenario, you're still up 7, the other team still has to score, and the extra point is no longer a sure thing. So I mean, you can't fault him for making the decision to try to put the game out of reach, make it a 2-possession game. As a fan, if you're sitting on 7.5, you're kind of beating your head. You go like, no, why did he do it? And if they get it, you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad they did it. Hindsight being 20/20 as far as that goes. But again, Tony, I agree with you. I don't fault him for that decision.
Yeah, I don't either. And of course, looking at the Houston side, they've allowed 28 points or greater in 5 of 6. The only exception was against Jacksonville. So you're right, that defense has been atrocious this year, and they failed to cover 5 of 6. The only exception was that Jacksonville team. So one thing to note here, when you look at the Packers, in case you've forgotten, dating back to last year, Chris, they have covered 18 of 23.
Yeah, that's an astounding number. And now that you kind of say it, and then you're kind of thinking to yourself, well, it makes sense because it's not often that you don't see the Packers cover a number. But I think we can both agree that Aaron Rodgers is probably the quarterback that can do more with less than most quarterbacks in the league. I mean, he doesn't have a star receiver outside of Devontae Adams, and even then, Devontae Adams hasn't been typical Pro Bowl Devontae Adams that we see year after year. You have a receiving core with Robert Tonyan, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Alan Lazard, and you're thinking to yourself, outside of Aaron Jones, what else is there? But I mean, he keeps getting it done. He keeps making lemons out of lemonade. I used that analogy already, but he keeps doing with what he's given, and it's amazing to watch. It really is.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing to watch here, guys, in the drive-through. As we'll lead to the top of the hour, we have a lot more picks coming up, and let's go ahead and bring in our man El Ninos. You'll find him over at Pick Dogs Premium. He's going to look at an NFL game. El, how you doing today? Your Dodgers got the job done, as we said in the open.
They sure did. Might be a bit more of a challenge against Snell tonight, but again, Snell's not quite been the 2018 Snell, so. Again, I think the Dodgers' offense is going to be a little problem for them.
All right, I think the offense here will be a problem for them. It's a big game here for Rays. This is when they have to have. You don't want to go down 2-0, then face Urias and Buehler. That would be a tough hill for the Rays to climb.
Yeah, that'll be the interesting part of the matchup to watch. You know that the Rays are just going to throw everything they got out there after Snell, whereas the Dodgers will have more options, I guess, depending on whether they want to go strong tonight, and then, of course, depending on the score, or maybe save some arms for the next games.
Yeah, of course, remember, they are going to get that day off. Remember, the day offs in this series are Thursday and Monday. They don't want to go up against the NFL. They'll figure. So those are the days off, so you can kind of factor your handicap in and how it goes. You got to feel good if you get this game in now. You got to feel good with Buehler and Urias.
Oh, yeah.
Friday, Saturday, that you'd be in a really good shape there.
Yeah, so it's hard to come back against the Dodgers up 2-0. I mean, it would be tough in any World Series to come back down 2-0. But yeah, in this case for the Rays, yeah, being dogs like that, it would be extra tough, I think. Yeah,
It'd be a tough one to go. All right, Al, you're going to be looking here an NFL game, one of the stinkers on the card. But man, it doesn't matter how they smell. They can smell like a rose and smell like you know what. If they still pay the same, right? So you're going to be looking at this Jets and Bills. The Bills favored by 13 in this game, and I like that. When I played them against the Jets, I think when the Jets played Dolphins, I like the under here, but the total here sits at 45. And we know Joe Flacco, the statue in the pocket, man, it might be a long day for him. Man. How do you see it?
yeah. I see. Actually, it looks like Sam Darnold practiced a bit, so he's looking like he has a chance to maybe start that week. But again, doesn't really matter. I don't think too much who starts for the Jets. They've been absolutely horrible. I don't know if they're tanking too much, or I mean, whether tanking or not. I see a lot of advice coming into Trevor Lawrence to stay away from the Jets, so I don't think it'll matter much if they tank or not. I don't think it's a place he will want to go. But so that might get them to play a little bit better. But again, they'll still want to get whatever best pick they can get after this season. And yeah, they've been absolutely horrible. I don't see them turning it around against a team that's played some really good football this year. And yeah, I'm taking the Bills at -13, and I wanted to give this play out before that line, which it has creeped already. It opened at 10.5 or 11.5, and it's already up to 13. So yeah, I would get it before it crosses that 14. I mean, I think they win by 2 touchdowns at least, but I mean, I'd rather get it under the 2 touchdowns than over the 2 touchdowns. So yeah, I'm going with the Bills -13 right now rather than wait for it.
All right, Al, our man in this chat room, Johnny K, says Bills -7 first half.
That is good too. Yeah, I usually go full games, but yeah, -7 first half. You know, you're going to get the full effort out of them. Don't have to worry about a backdoor so much, but yeah, I like both looks. I mean, I'd probably take them first quarter too, and every quarter if you want. But yeah, my pick's on the full game now.
You know, Chris. Games like this, I always like to look under, but I'm a little nervous here because I think Buffalo might want to take it out on somebody here, and they could take. I'm afraid they may take this over themselves. How do you see this one?
I mean, as far as the line goes, I mean, I think Buffalo's the play regardless. This was the game I had circled just to make sure that I took a serious look at, depending on the number. 13 is getting a little bit hefty, and we're starting to wonder if maybe we're starting to get into that territory where the line the points may get to be too big that you have to actually maybe plug your nose and take a look at the Jets. But right now, I think the Bills, you still have to take a look at them. The Jets have just been god awful, and they're offloading everybody, and it's becoming hard to watch. And I think this you have to start to wonder if every quarterback in that green room on draft night, if the Jets get the first overall pick, are going to kind of look away from the camera just to make sure that they're not the ones taken, you know. So it's just a bad situation in New York right now. So I would go with the points as well, or sorry, I would lay the points with the Bills as well. But I think you could be right with the over. This one could be all Buffalo, and even if the Jets don't contribute to the total, I think this one could go over single-handedly with the Bills. I think you want to make a statement, make it against a division rival, and this is just a bad Jets team.
Josh Allen looking to make amends here after that performance in some of the past few games, but against bad teams, you know, Buffalo has been able to move the football. And one thing to note here with this Jets team, they failed to cover all 6 games. Average loss has been by 18 points. Average spread defeat by 11 points. So that's been a big spread here. So if that holds up here, that means the Jets would lose by 24, right? And that if that factors in the way the Jets failing to cover the spread by 11 points, Al.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to look at some numbers. Sorry, Tony, I didn't catch that. You want to ask me that one?
Oh, no, we're saying that the Jets, their average defeat has been by 18, and their average spread defeat has been by 11. So if you factor a 13-point spread, you could probably see like a 24-point defeat here by New York if it holds the form.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one might get ugly, as you said. Yeah, the Bills might want to take it out on them and make a statement here, and that's what I'm seeing happening here. So again, I would take it before it crosses that 14, but yeah, I definitely like the Bills here.
My guess, Chris. Go ahead.
I was going to say I don't think a 41-14 Bills victory is anywhere out of the realm of possibility. I think this game to me is screaming beatdown, at least early on.
Now, I'm not into survivor pools. I don't know if you are, Chris, but I would have to reason to guess this probably of all the games this year, this probably be the highest percentage of action one way would be with Buffalo in a survivor.
Yeah, it would be if I don't know if the Bills and Jets have already played each other this year, but it would be any team playing the Jets, and if they've already played the Jets, well, any team either playing the Falcons or the I don't know if anyone
Washington.
else win or the Giants. Or Washington or anyone of that for that matter. You could have went with the Jaguars in week 1, and the next thing you know, you would have been. So you would have went with the Colts. You would have been screwed because everyone thought that the Jaguars were going to be the ones that went 0-16. But right now, it looks like the Jets are the auto survivor fade.
All right, looks that way. All right, Al, as we approach the top of the hour, we'll get to some UEFA and coverage here. But first, let's find out what you have going on over at Pig Dogs Premium.
Yeah, I got my play on the side of this Game 2 of the World Series, as well as my Thursday night football game. If you want to check that out, I got the side on that one too.
All right, guys, so check out Al Nino's over at Pig Dogs Premium and get his one-day package, or why don't you go up to a 30-day all sports pass now available at Pig Dogs Premium. You can see Al's ranked number 1 at Pig Dogs for NFL plus over 400 units of profit. All right, Al and Chris, I want to know first before we get into the coverage for tomorrow, just give me a recap here on what we saw here in Champions Match Day 2. Start with Al.
So Al? You said for the recap?
Yeah. What did you think from Match Day 2?
We saw a couple more upsets than in day 1, but Bayern came through for us. That was my top play. What was the other one? Ajax pushed on the +1, so that wasn't too bad there. Those were the 2 plays we looked at. But unfortunately, the leans I threw out after that didn't go so well. Inter had a draw, so the -1 didn't work out. And Olympiacos pulled it off in stoppage time against Marseille. So that was that looked like it was headed for a draw, but yeah, that late goal did it for Olympiacos there. So congrats to them.
Yeah, Atletico were off to a bad start. They fell a goal short in that second half. Chris, how did you see Match Day 2?
Yeah, I was. Luckily, I was on the right side of that Shakhtar Donetsk Real Madrid game. I was a +300 on the double chance, but I saw money line up to +1400 for Shakhtar. So I know a couple people who had a little bit of vested interest on that game, but I personally had the Olympiacos draw as a premium play. I'll admit it. It was close, but that's the nature of the beast. But I mean, look, you had Manchester City sort of rally back from a 1-0 deficit and win 3-1. We had Inter Milan and Mönchengladbach to draw. The one result I think that surprised me the most was that Bayern Munich result. I mean, I expected a little bit more defensively from Atletico Madrid. They were the tightest defensive team in La Liga last year, and for Bayern to just come out and absolutely put a hurt on Atletico it's an eye opener. And I mean, I say eye opener. It shouldn't be much of a surprise that Bayern comes out and wins 4-0 in their first game, but against a top tier team like Atletico Madrid, it was just flabbergasting to me. But I think we're in for a heck of a tournament for the rest of the group stage.
All right, we look Thursday action. A lot of afternoon action from UEFA Europa League, and we'll start with Al here on Celtic and AC Milan.
Yeah, Celtic's a team I really like a lot. The fan base can get pretty wild. They do have home field here, but I think AC Milan's still the better club. They are laying a goal, or actually they're -133 on the money line, which isn't bad at all. I would actually strongly consider just taking AC Milan on the money line here at -133. Celtic should put up a good fight, but again, I just think Milan's the better side.
All right, Chris, your thoughts on that one, Celtic AC?
Yeah, I mean, the Guinness will be flowing for Celtic. I mean, the fan base will be watching the pubs early on. But, you know what, I still think that the Celtic team's just, no matter where they go, whether it's the Champions League or the Europa League, they just put their heads down and they fight. They scrap out results. AC Milan they just played the derby. They just had a hard fought game. I could see this being just a stalemate. I see this ending 1-1. I have the draw. I got to check out the odds on that one, but I think the draw is going to go off at around plus 200 or something in that ballpark. I'll pull them up if you just give me a second.
Plus 255. I see it out.
There we go. So I'm going plus 255 on the draw. I think those are great odds.
All right, Ella, looking at the other matchup we have here on the show, Tottenham and Lask.
Yeah, again, this is a slight mismatch again. I think Tottenham is going to come in here again. There's slightly bigger favorites at minus 333 here, but laying a goal and a half, you get them at minus 108. I don't think that's too horrible a look. They've played great in this competition so far, and I expect them to have another good game here.
All right, Chris, how do you see that one?
Yeah, I think this one's just going to be Tottenham from start to finish. I mean, we have seen them lay eggs in these European competitions before, but I mean, if they were to do that here, I think that would just be more of a staple of Jose Mourinho's arrogance to not winning the Premier League and not winning the Champions League. I think anything below the Champions League in the EPL is sort of beneath him, and that's the kind of reputation he's got over the years. But I do think that Tottenham comes out all guns blazing here, gets a result. I can see Tottenham winning, so I would probably lay the Tottenham minus 1.5 as well.
All right, El, any other games on the big card here for Thursday that catch your eye?
Yeah, I believe he's been quoted, I believe he's been quoted as saying that the Champions League is bigger than the World Cup, which is something I would kind of agree with in some ways. So, I could definitely see Chris's point there as well. Sorry, your question again, Tony?
Oh, any other games on Thursday you got circled?
Oh, yeah, I don't know if you could catch it on the angle, but I got my Ike scarf around my basketball today. So I'll be rooting for them. They're big dogs at plus 300 or so, so it should be a tough one for them. The Greek team I do like more tomorrow is PAOK. They should have a pretty good game against Nicosia, which is a Cypriot team. Beautiful city, great people, but not so great soccer players out there. PAOK minus 142 on the money line. That's not so bad. You can lay a goal and the money line on the Asian handicap at minus 105 if you're going to do that. I think both are pretty good looks here. I expect them to win this game rather comfortably. And let's see, Arsenal's playing tomorrow as well, laying a goal at minus 105. That might be a decent look too. And I think there was one more, but I think those were the top ones for now.
All right, and we'll turn over to Chris. Any of the other games look attractive to you on the betting board?
There's a couple I'm looking at just off the top. Possibly looking at the plus 1.5, or maybe you can even get plus 2 with AZ Alkmaar against Napoli. I think Napoli wins the game, but they haven't been that strong defensively domestically. So, I think if you can get a goal and a half with AZ Alkmaar, you can even get plus 1.5 at plus 148. I think that's some solid value. I'm also looking at Young Boys and Roma. Young Boys, Swiss team. They're perennially in either the Champions League if Basel's not in it, or they're in the Europa League. And Roma, they had Champions League aspirations, but they fell just short. And I think this could be they might take it a little bit easy early on. I could see Young Boys pulling out a point in this one. I could see a draw there. And I think that's all I see for right now. I think there's going to be some high level competition on the board. They got Bayern Leverkusen against Nice. You got Germany against France there. You got PSV Eindhoven, Dutch team, playing Granada. So you got Holland against Spain there. All I'm saying is don't overlook the Europa League just because it's not the Champions League. There is some solid value here, even maybe for teams that you haven't necessarily heard of.
All right, that's Chris Ruffalo and out Ninos here on our drive-thru looking at the Europa League action for Thursday. Of course, don't forget, tune in the morning tomorrow for the drive-thru. There'll be a lot more coverage. We'll probably get Rod's take on things as well. Europa League coverage tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time on Mitch's The Morning Show. All right, Dal, as always, great having your show. Have a great night. I know who you're rooting for tonight in that baseball game, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Go Dodgers. We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. All right, everybody. Al Nino's here on the drive-thru. All right, now it's time for my free pick, We're going to go to SEC, and we're going to look at a total here with South Carolina and LSU. We're going to go over a total of 55. The Gamecocks have shown balance offensively this season. They've done a great job of converting their red zone opportunities. They put up 27 on Tennessee and then 30 last week to Auburn. We know that struggles for LSU has been on defense. As a young team, they're giving up 494 yards, 380 in the passing game. We're going to look here at senior quarterback Colin Hill for South Carolina. He had a 290-yard passing performance against Tennessee. He's capable of moving the football here for the Gamecocks. Remember, LSU's allowed 44 points at Mississippi State. Then last week, 45 to Missouri. They're giving up 371 yards through the air. And don't forget about their offense. Miles Brennan has thrown for 384 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a pick, plus sacked only twice. Looking here at his numbers, LSU's offense is on track. Defense is not. I look for this one over 55. Your thoughts on that game, Chris? LSU, South Carolina.
Finally, we agree on something, Tony. No, I'm kidding. I agree with you here. I think if this is all going to be contingent for me on if Miles Brennan is 100%. I think he got dinged up a little bit in that last game, but they've had the bye week to sort of get him fixed up. And LSU averaging 38.7 points per game this year. South Carolina averaging over 30. I think this one does scream shootout all the way. I think we said it was 59.
It opened at 59, but there was a big move to the under in this one. So
okay, so I can even I had this one as 31-28, 31-27.
Yeah,
so easily getting closer to 60, if not 65.
All right, so we're in agreement here with the South Carolina LSU over total of 55. All right, here on the drive-thru, guys. Don't forget, we're here Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back again tomorrow with a lot more coverage. We got Thursday football. We'll have the coverage of the Giants, Eagles, as well as Appalachian State's in action tomorrow, I believe, as they play, I believe Arkansas State's the game from the Sun Belt. So we'll have coverage on that, and it'll take us in more football coverage as well as we get going here on the drive-thru. All right, now it's time. One of our favorite segments here is to recap the picks, and let me get the picks up here for you guys. Let's see who's on what. We got to start. We got El Ninos to join us again in the segment. Joe Duffy opened up the show. He said take Florida State +5 against Louisville. I was in agreement with him on that one. Ron Z, take Navy +14 against Houston. Chris Ruffalo, TCU +6.5 against Oklahoma. I was in agreement there. L, Buffalo -13 against the Jets. I was with him there too. And yours truly, South Carolina LSU over total of 55 points. All right, Chris, as we always say, I think I could just ask this question. Other than your pick, which one do you like the best?
You didn't ask me which one I like to hate the least. No, I'm kidding. I'm with Al on this one. I think that the Jets are absolutely atrocious. They're a joke of an NFL team right now. I think we're going to watch the seat get hot under Adam Gase, and he's just going to have to live with a burn on his butt cheeks till week 17 until they fire him at the end of the season. So I'm gonna side with the Bills -13.
All right, Al. What do you say? Which one? I think I can say this. Which one of these picks do you like the best?
Well, before we forget, let's ask you, Tony.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I'm going with Duffy. I like that Florida State +5.
All right, fair enough. I will have to. Actually, it was a toss-up between yours, Tony, and Rod's, and I think I like Rod's just that much better, so I'll take the 14 points with Navy there.
All right, says take Navy +14. All right, Al, we'll talk to you tomorrow, brother.
All right, we'll see you then.
All right, back here on the drive-thru, guys. Don't forget tomorrow. We'll be back here with Chris and company, and we'll have Mitch will be back tomorrow with us. So we'll have Mitch join us here as I go back to my 2-cam shot here with Chris. I can figure out my equipment. Oh, here we go. I can figure this out. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll have a lot of coverage from the NFL and college football. And be sure to tune in 6 p.m. Eastern time. Don't forget, tomorrow's the morning show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time with Mitch and company. So tune into that. So let's go ahead and bring on the cappers up and wave ourselves goodbye. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. And don't forget, lower left corner, that's Ron Z's birdcage. So I'll keep it up for just about 5 more seconds. So you get it, write it down, go play it. He's going to win for you. He's going to win you some money. It's a team total from Ron Zawacki. All right, guys, we will talk with you